Willow Ridge Preserve was the kind of gated community that made realtors' phones light up the moment a listing went live. Nestled on the suburban edge of Davenport, it was a neighborhood of winding, tree-lined streets, perfectly edged lawns, and sidewalks so spotless they looked power-washed daily. Property values remained high, thanks in large part to stringent architectural guidelines and the community's reputation as a peaceful, picture-perfect retreat from the chaos of everyday life. But beneath the charm, there was a quiet war waged with warning letters and passive-aggressive HOA citations. The person at the center of it all was Eleanor Hartwell, the Homeowners Association's treasurer. Eleanor was in her mid-50s, trim and impeccably dressed at all times, with shoulder-length copper hair and a voice that could cut glass. Residents privately called her Karen, though never to her face. She had a reputation for enforcing even the pettiest of rules with ironclad fervor, citing violations for things like mailbox flag angles and unauthorized garden gnomes. Her temperament was explosive, and she was never wrong, at least not in her own mind. Into this polished but rigid world moved Alex and Hannah Grayson, a newly married couple who had just purchased a cozy, two-bedroom home on Dogwood Circle. They arrived brimming with excitement, thrilled to start a new chapter. Both had grown up in communities where people waved from porches and shared sugar over the fence. Willow Ridge seemed like the ideal place to build a life together. At first, it was. Some neighbors offered warm welcome plates of cookies, casual chats during dog walks, but always with a warning tucked inside their smiles. Follow the rules, keep your yard tidy, and whatever you do, don't challenge Eleanor Hartwell. Alex and Hannah chuckled at first, thinking it was neighborhood lore. That naivety didn't last long. Just 1 week after moving in, Alex was mounting a small wooden bird feeder beside the front porch when a white luxury SUV rolled up. Out stepped a woman in a beige pantsuit with a clipboard in hand. She marched up the walkway like a general reviewing her troops. "Good morning," Alex greeted, wiping sawdust from his hands. "I'm Alex Grayson. My wife and I just moved in." "I know who you are," she said crisply. "Eleanor Hartwell, HOA treasurer." Her gaze snapped to the bird feeder. "That's a front yard fixture. Have you reviewed Section 3.4 of the guidelines regarding permissible ornaments?" I skimmed the packet. Didn't see anything about bird feeders." "It's on page 18, she replied. "Fixtures must be under 24 inches tall and align with the neighborhood's unified aesthetic." "That one? It's borderline." As Alex processed this bizarre level of scrutiny, Hannah stepped onto the porch with a polite smile. "We're happy to follow the rules. Just let us know what needs adjusting." Eleanor's face briefly softened, then hardened again. "See that you do. We maintain a certain standard here. One lapse leads to another. Have a good day." She spun around and drove off, leaving the couple blinking at each other in stunned silence. Over the next few weeks, the Graysons settled into their new home, hosted a small barbecue, and did their best to fly under Eleanor's radar. The neighborhood itself had a private lake, tennis courts, and a sparkling communal pool, but every interaction with Eleanor or the HOA felt like tiptoeing through a minefield. During a walk with their golden retriever, Bear, Hannah struck up a conversation with a friendly neighbor named Linda McAllister. A silver-haired woman with a warm laugh, Linda had lived in Willow Ridge for 20 years. "You're new," she said kindly. "I've seen you and your husband walking that sweet pup." "We're loving it so far," Hannah replied. "But, Eleanor's intense." Linda chuckled dryly. "That's one word for her. She's got power and she knows it. She wasn't always like this. We used to have a more relaxed board, but Eleanor clawed her way into control. And now she polices trash cans and porch lights like she's guarding Fort Knox." Hannah relayed the conversation to Alex that evening. They agreed. Keep heads down, stay compliant, and avoid unnecessary waves. But that plan didn't last either. Alex had always believed that strong communities were built on connection. He started organizing casual weekend gatherings, movie nights at the park, chili cook-offs, even a Halloween costume contest for pets. Residents loved it. They needed something to look forward to, a break from the nitpicking. But Eleanor hated it. Word got to her that Alex had hosted a planning session at his house with 6 neighbors. She appeared at their front door the next morning, stone-faced. "I understand there was a meeting involving communal property," she said flatly. "It was just a casual discussion about movie nights," Hannah said, confused. Nothing official. All uses of community property must be pre-approved by the board, Eleanor snapped. That includes preliminary planning. You'll need to submit a formal request. Alex, trying to stay civil, nodded. We'll file whatever forms you need. We're just trying to bring people together. Eleanor handed him a folded note. Then do it the right way. She turned and left without another word. Later that evening, Alex stared at the note in his hand. This is unreal. Hannah sighed. She wants control. Over everything. Neither of them could have imagined how far things would go. 2 months later, the tension in Willow Ridge turned to outrage. Linda McAllister discovered extensive water damage in her basement, part of an ongoing issue with clogged storm drains that the HOA had ignored. At the next board meeting, Linda, normally calm, stood up and let loose. We've been asking you to fix the drainage for over a year. I spent nearly 10 grand repairing my foundation. What are we even paying for? Eleanor, seated at the front table, didn't blink. We're prioritizing budgetary items based on what benefits the majority. Linda's voice trembled with fury. So when someone's house floods, that's not a priority? The board makes those determinations, Eleanor replied icily. If you're unsatisfied, you're welcome to file an appeal. Whispers spread through the room. Residents murmured about rising dues, mounting fines, and Eleanor's obsessive oversight of trivial issues while real problems festered. Alex leaned toward Hannah. She's losing control. Hannah nodded. Finally. But Eleanor didn't back off. Instead, she cracked down harder. Within days, neighbors received citations for everything from garden hose placement to American flags hanging at the wrong angle. The community had become a prison. And then came the night that changed everything. Across from the Graysons lived Jim Holloway, a retired paramedic in his 70s. Widowed and fiercely independent, Jim was beloved by the community. He often told stories from his years in the field and kept a first aid kit on hand for neighborhood kids who fell off bikes. One hot August evening, Jim collapsed alone in his living room, clutching his chest. Gasping for breath, he managed to dial 911 before passing out. An ambulance arrived within 8 minutes. But the gate wouldn't open. Willow Ridge's gate had a new code, one that emergency services hadn't received because Eleanor had changed it again for security. The medics tried the master code. Nothing. They radioed dispatch, who called the HOA's emergency line only to reach an automated system with a convoluted menu that eventually redirected to a private after-hours answering service. That person, a temp unfamiliar with the protocol, demanded identity confirmation before giving any information. Meanwhile, Jim's condition worsened. Just as the crew was debating whether to ram the gate, a familiar SUV pulled up behind them. It was Eleanor. She stormed toward the ambulance, annoyed. "What's going on here?" she demanded. "We have a medical emergency." A resident on Dogwood Circle, Jim Holloway, called 911. "We need access now." Eleanor bristled. "You don't have the code?" "No," the lead paramedic snapped. "Because someone changed it without notifying dispatch. We're losing time." Eleanor hesitated, fumbling in her purse for the remote. 60 seconds passed. 90. "You're killing him," one of the medics hissed. Finally, the gate creaked open. They sped through. Jim Holloway died 27 minutes later. The ER team said the delay had cost him any realistic shot at survival. The next morning, word spread like wildfire. By afternoon, a memorial of candles and flowers stood outside Jim's home. That night, Linda McAllister made a post on the community message board. "A beloved neighbor is gone. And we all know why. The dam broke." Stories poured in. Residents spoke of ignored safety requests, threats from Eleanor, citations for things like swing sets or wind chimes. A petition calling for Eleanor's removal garnered over 200 signatures in 24 hours. Jim's daughter, Valerie, flew in from out of state. Heartbroken and furious, she filed a wrongful death lawsuit naming both the HOA and Eleanor individually. Local news picked up the story. Then state news. 8 delay kills former paramedic. The headline ran for a week. Eleanor insisted she'd done nothing wrong. Why didn't the ambulance have the right code, she argued in a flustered news interview. The public wasn't buying it. The other board members turned on her. Insurance companies threatened to cancel coverage unless she was removed. At an emergency session, HOA President Alan Cray invoked the gross negligence clause. Eleanor, he said quietly, we can't protect you anymore. She was voted out unanimously. Her reign ended not with a resignation but with her being escorted from the clubhouse by a security guard. Civil and criminal proceedings followed. The discovery process unearthed damning evidence: emails, phone records, recorded voicemails from emergency service officials begging for updated gate access codes. Eleanor was eventually found liable for wrongful death and faced criminal charges for negligent homicide. The HOA paid out millions. Eleanor lost her home, her reputation, and finally her freedom, sentenced to 6 years in state prison. But the story didn't end there. Alex Grayson took a seat on the new board. Hannah helped establish a memorial garden near the lake, complete with a bench and a bronze plaque. In memory of Jim Holloway. Neighbor. Hero. Sacrificed to bureaucracy. Never again. Valerie Holloway used part of her settlement to fund a program ensuring all emergency services had updated access to every gated community in the state. Willow Ridge was never the same. It was better. Because when tragedy strikes, good people rise. And they don't let it happen twice.